Hello there, good people. Patricia here. Today we're going to be talking about when transition time comes a knocking. Oh my goodness. It's that time of the year, right? Where you got transition from winter into spring. You've got transitions with folks who are graduating from high school and college and getting ready to move into the workforce. There's lots of movement, right? That's what transitions are. There's movement going on, and it can be very unsettling. It can be exciting and unsettling at the same time. So I want to talk a little bit about what does that mean and what does that look like for you, whether it's that specific type of transition or if it's one that's just a transition point in your life, personally and professionally, that you see is coming up, and what can you do in the process of that transition to keep it healthy, to keep it open, and to um, keep growing through it. Yes. So this one, we may be talking about for a couple of videos down through the ways, because I have lots of other content on transitions. First of all, let me rest assured that, and I'll make sure and link that up. But I wanted to talk about it in terms of just like life today, because there's so much going on. And it would generally lead people to kind of do a little freeze and like, oh, but I can't do that because, we don't know what the state of the world's going to be. So we got to stop. And I don't want you to do that, right? I don't want you to do that. So, but before we dive into that, please remember to hit the like and thumbs up button and to subscribe to this channel to push it out to the YouTube world and algorithms and all that good stuff. And so that we can bring in more people who might enjoy these conversations that we're having about, being good leaders, about being authentic in who we are, about building those relationships that we really need throughout our lives for work and pleasure, yes, and making sure that we're taking really good care of ourselves in the process, because that is always important, and to make sure we're doing it in a very empowered way. So all the things that we talk about here on this channel. Okay, so and when you're talking about transitions, my goodness, there's so much there, right? Because there's an element of self care that needs to be thought about, of definitely being empowered in the movement and what your relationships look like, and all of those things, and how you're leading yourself through that process. And the first thing that generally comes up is literally just like some angst and some fear. Because even if it's a good thing, let's say, some a young person who's moving from, high school to college and or work, or from college to work, uh, whatever that might be, those transition points are exciting, right? But it's also very angsty. It can cause you to be scared because you don't know what's next. And when you're doing that and you're at a transition point, and let's say you've already been out in the world, you know, you've you've been working, and maybe the transition for you is from your first job to your second job, or from one level to a next, or maybe a transition regarding having a family now while you're working. That's a huge one, right? Especially for women. It's a huge transition point that can actually be pretty stressful as well. And so what are the things to think about during these transition points that are important, such that maybe you can actually even enjoy it? Because that's literally it. I mean, like, what are we supposed to be doing with our lives right now? Certainly not waking up to crazy news like I did. So I'm like, what are we still doing? And we have to refocus. I'm like, okay, but what can I do about the things that I have control over right now today? And that may well be, it's like, how I transition in this moment. What does it look like for me with transition knocking at my door? What does that look like for me in these coming days, weeks, months? And the first thing is literally to like have a woosah moment. I mean, just sit and be accepting of the fact that there is a transition coming. Because what happens is it's like, oh my gosh, this is going on, and we start rushing through it and trying to, gather up information and things and celebrate and all of that. All of those things are fantastic. And it's really important to just sit in the moment and acknowledge it for what it is. To gather your thoughts. I don't care how young or how old you are, it is so important to sit in the moment and to gather your thoughts about what it is that you are going through or potentially about to go through. And what would it mean to you? What would it look like for you to make it through this transition point successfully? Like, how would you define success? Right? And that's not something that we often think about. We think about it after the fact, but while we're in it, we're generally not slowing down enough to say, this, I will be happy with this transition if, right? So for someone who's transitioning from college to the workforce, I will be happy with this transition if I can celebrate it with my family and I can know that I have options for my next, career move. That's it. Options for it, not knowing what it is, right? Because that's putting a whole lot of other stress on you. So, or let's say if you're transitioning from one career or one job to another, I will consider this successful if I've strengthened my relationships in this process. Notice I didn't make it about the next job. It's about what can you gain and grow from in that moment, independent of the actual quote destination or goal. Because sometimes the destination or the goal doesn't quite happen the way we want, right? The pathway we have laid for it doesn't happen the way we want it to. And that may make it, very upsetting, and oh, I'm so disappointed in it. I've felt that way. I've been there because I'm a planner. I'm a planner, and I'll just put something, I'm like, this is the way I would like for it to go. And I'm not an inflexible planner because I've dealt with too many crises, both family wise and professionally, to not be flexible. But there are things that idealistically I would really like for this to go this way. And unfortunately, it doesn't always go the way that we ideally would like for it to. So, what does it still look like for it to be successful then? And when I ask myself that question, that takes so much of that pressure off, and or it reminds me, I'm like, there were still some good things going on here. Like, I didn't get to the thing the way I planned on it, but there was still some good stuff happening in the process. And that's really important. And it's important to sit down and try to have that conversation with yourself early on, just for a moment to acknowledge it. And then, so that as you're going through the transition, you can remind yourself, I'm like, hey, remember I said I'd be happy if this happens, regardless of what the outcomes are. So that's really important. I think that's one of the most important things we can do for ourselves, in the midst of a transition or when you're going into one. Another thing is to, um, identify your your cheer squad. I haven't talked about the cheer squad in a minute. I think I did that in my coffee chats for sure. So I'll try to remember to link it. But we all have a fan club. Each and every one of us has someone who is rooting in our corner for us to be successful, for us to, be well, to be whoever we are meant to be. And we forget about that. We forget about our cheer club. And I always encourage people to go, like, seek out your fans and remember who those people are, and because they can help us through some of the most challenging moments, even when they are, happy, but they can still be challenging. Transitions can be challenging even when they're good transitions. So I encourage you to seek out, or have a little reflection time about your fan club. This is something I really feel strongly about. Someone might think that I'm, like a little egotistical about this thing that I do, but it's not about that. It's a reminder. So I keep a board in my office space, wherever I am. I keep a board of thank you notes. When folks have written me thank you notes down through the years for whatever service on a board, for working with a project, thank you notes for my thank you notes. Like that's happened before. Cards that friends or, colleagues have sent me. I keep those and I post them because sometimes I need that reminder that, first of all, there are folks out there who think well of me and that believe in me and have believed in me in the past. So guess what? I can do it and use that energy for the future. There are cards from people or friends or family. I mean, my notes from my daughter, oh, they always just, really touch me, and I keep them close because there are moments, especially in transitions, where we need to be reminded of the impact that we are having on someone or have had on someone, and to remind ourselves that, guess what, in this transition moment we can grow to the next level of who we are uh, going to be, so that we can continue to have a positive impact in our families, in our communities, in our work, whatever it might be. So, keep that little, you know, that cheer, that fan club close. Keep reminders of it close. Again, not as a false narrative, but as a very real one of, hey, you've got some things. And if you're like, well, I don't have any notes from people, you probably do. They're probably in a text message, they're probably in an email, or even if it was verbal. Sometimes you have to go actively dig for them and bring them back to your remembrance, because again, it is so easy for us to push off those positive things that people have said about us, or that they've shared with us in the past. So I encourage you to think about, what have been some things that fan club members, your personal fan club members, have shared with you down through the years that have been helpful. There are some that I still keep from years and years ago because they really meant so much to me. One of the ones that I keep is actually where, when I was leaving one of my jobs, and it had been a pretty rough transition in that space because we were tearing down some things and building up some new ones. And one of the new offices that I created, that staff, they took a group picture together, and then they all signed the canvas and had something to say about having worked with me. And I still have that. I still have that. And that was years ago, so many years ago. But it's a reminder again of the impact that I've had down through the years, and that my work meant something, and it can still mean something to the next generation of young leaders, of folks that I work with, and community builders, whatever it might be. So there's definitely that. So what did I say? Definitely about giving that reflection moment, about, seeking out your fan club and remembering those who support you. And then also in the transition, it's like being excited about what the next thing is, like what the possibilities are. Like it's not bad. Like it's not a bad thing to be excited about what can be, about what lies ahead. Sometimes fear and uncertainty will overshadow that and take away some of that joy that we otherwise should be feeling. in those moments, even in the midst of a tough transition. I know I've had those conversations with people that I've coached down through the years, and I have to remind them, I'm like, hey, remember, there's something good on the other side of this. And I want you to remember that. I want you to enjoy thinking about that. It may be tough getting there, but there is something absolutely great to be thinking about in the midst of what could be very a challenging transition, much less one that is a good one, right? So I want you to remember that. I know that's something that I have to remember because, yeah, big overthinker here will go digging down into the, oh, but this was wrong and that. No, no, no. How about on the other side of this? Maybe the challenge is I'm, collecting a new set of clients to be able to work with, and it's moving a little bit slower than I would like. And on the other side of this, I am going to be in a better space. I'm going to be enjoying my work in a fresh way. I'm going to have even greater freedom to move about, to enjoy new spaces, like the things. And sometimes what we have to do is write them down. Write them down. Or I can't show it to you because it's on my phone, but I did an exercise, and it's one that I've done before, but not to the extent. I did an exercise from Glow Autonomo's creative reset, where you pulled pictures of different things that you're looking forward to or wanting to accomplish, or that are part of not just goals, but like, life and personal achievements as well, right? They're not all business related, whatever, but to create a collage of those things. I love that. And it is a screensaver on my phone. Like, I cannot get away from that. And then when I'm like, what is that? I'm like, oh yeah, that's my collage. Okay, let me go look at some of this. What am I doing to bring some of these things to pass? And it's that reminder daily that, hey, there are great things ahead, and I'm taking these steps today to get to them. And so there are so many opportunities to grow in transition times. Like I said, whether the transition is a challenging one or it's one that's, rich with opportunity, there's always an opportunity for growth as well. And so I encourage you to take that look within about what are those growth opportunities, so that you can be conscious of them as you are traveling this new path, this new journey to the next level of whoever you want to be, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish or be, and do it, do it with some joy, because there's enough not joy in the world. There's enough angst in the world that we have to be mindful of those joyous moments that we can control, and have not just positive thoughts, but like I said, truly happy and joyful ones in the midst of the challenge, in the midst of a transition, and knowing that, you know what, things are changing, and they're changing for the good, and I'm ready and I'm excited about it. All right, just a few things to think about there, as we're talking about what, uh, you know, what you can do in the midst of a transition, and you're in the transition right now. And if you're in one of these, really celebratory moments, congratulations. And don't forget to celebrate it for yourself. Have your own personal celebration, not just the one that's with all the people, but where you actually sit down and say, I did it, right? Like, I've done this, and I'm excited, and now I'm ready for the next thing, and I'm going to go make the next thing happen. Just a few thoughts for today. All right, take care, everyone, and we will talk with you again tomorrow.